Have you ever looked around your house and thought, where did all of this stuff come from? Today, I want to talk about why our houses often get messy despite even our best efforts. Keep in mind, even though I've spent over 2 years simplifying my home, some of these things still sneak up on me. This is a list of ways I've found clutter creeps into my home. This is not an exhaustive list and it's not in any particular order. Number 1, accepting things you don't need or accepting things because they're free. I live in a fantastic neighborhood. People here are so generous and giving. And without fail, someone is always getting rid of something and offering it on our neighborhood text thread. I always love when I'm getting rid of something and I offer it on the neighborhood thread and I'm able to give it to someone who needs it. But how often when we see something that someone is offering for free, do we all of a sudden think, I could use that? When given the opportunity to get something for free, think instead, am I accepting this because it's free, or was I going to acquire this anyway? Answering this question honestly for yourself helps you avoid bringing more clutter into your home. Number 2, buying things you weren't intending to. My husband's parents have a Traeger. The food that they make on it is delicious. My husband and I have talked about getting a Traeger, but while they're really nice, we've always come back to the fact that we don't really need it. We have a basic grill that works well and is fine for what we need it for. I've heard that Traeger has a display at Costco only twice a year, and it's one of the best prices that you can get for a Traeger. A while back, I went into Costco and there was the Traeger salesman. He saw me looking at the Traegers out of curiosity and started up a conversation. He was very persuasive. And because my husband and I had already talked about it, I left the store convinced that we needed a Traeger and this was our chance to get one. I went home and I talked to my husband about it and I was trying to convince him that this was our chance to get a Traeger and that he should go to Costco and talk to the guy for himself. He was going to do it when we both kind of stopped and looked at each other and began to question whether or not we really needed a Traeger. We didn't. Our kids have really basic tastes anyway, so they're fine and we're fine with the food that we're able to make on our grill. If you don't actively have a deficit or a need, don't buy something, regardless of how persuasive someone may be to sell their product on the spot. I've learned when you have to make a choice like that on the spot, usually you should just say no. More often than not, impulse purchases are not purchases we are glad that we made. And also, I would add here, a huge cause for clutter creeping in is making impulse purchases in general. Something that you bought when you went to the store with the intent to get something else. Hold yourself accountable to not making impulse purchases. Stores are set up to get you to buy things that you weren't intending to. If you know you have a problem with making impulse purchases, consider doing pickup orders where you buy online and they bring your order out curbside. This isn't to say that you can't make impulse purchases online, because you absolutely can. But with online orders, it's so much easier to see how much you're spending before you actually check out. You can see a total of things as you add each item to your cart. As far as online purchases go, if there's something I think would really add value to my life, I often wait at least 48 hours before purchasing it. Sometimes I will think on it a lot longer than that. And a lot of times I come to the conclusion that I don't really need it at all. I have learned that keeping clutter down takes a lot of willpower. Often it requires changing your habits. I love the Target dollar spot, but the amount of stuff from there that I have decluttered over the past couple of years far outweighs the number of things from there that I've actually kept. So whenever I go to Target, which isn't as much as it used to be, I often have to skip the dollar spot. The other day I went to Target to get something that I had run out of, and I walked in and I could see that the dollar spot was freshly stocked with brand new spring items. I love spring. And I knew I'd likely see something cute and I just didn't want the temptation, so I skipped it altogether. Number 3, gifts from others that you don't need or want. People are so generous, whether it's birthdays or Christmas or holidays or just that sweet friend that drops by with a pick-me-up gift. I've tried to get in the habit of immediately donating anything that I receive that I don't need. If you can regift it within the next week, that's a great option too. But don't keep it around your house for a long time with the intent to give it to someone else, because when it's floating around the house is when it often becomes clutter. Obviously, it's so important to graciously accept any gift you receive. But once you've been given something, that gift is now yours to do with as you see fit. As far as ongoing gift exchanges, there are a few things you can do. You can graciously opt out of gift exchanges. You can ask for money or an experience instead of items. My personal favorite was this year when my mother-in-law asked what we'd like for Christmas. I told her that since we had done so much decluttering, we really didn't want anything physical. But what we would love is for her to watch our kids for a weekend, for my husband and I to be able to get away. I assured her if she didn't want to do that, that was fine, and she was still fine to get things for the kids, but my husband and I didn't need anything. When we received our gift from my mother and father-in-law, we were so excited to find a funny certificate detailing out that my in-laws would be willing to watch our kids so that we could get away. It was such a great gift. We took them up on it a couple of weeks ago, and not only did my husband and I have fun traveling together, but my kids had the best weekend with Grandma and Grandpa. Get creative with this, but think outside the box if you feel like you end up with a lot of things given to you that you don't really want or need. Number 4, another way that clutter can creep in is one I'm personally very guilty of, and that is sometimes trying too hard to save myself another trip to the store, all in the name of efficiency. What else do I need while I'm here? I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this, but sometimes I find myself really thinking too hard to save myself another trip. And then I end up with things that I thought I would need, but end up not needing. If there's an imminent need for something, or you know something is coming up that you're going to need supplies for, go ahead and get it. But other than that, just stick to what you came to get in the first place. Number 5, trying to save on shipping. What else can I buy so I can get free shipping instead? Places like Target, Walmart, lots of other places have a shipping threshold that you have to meet before you can either have items shipped or before you have to pay for shipping. How many times do we throw a couple of small things in the cart so that we can avoid having to pay shipping? Even if it's something you think you'll use eventually, a lot of times those are the things that end up sitting around, not getting used, but contributing to clutter. Number 6, keeping things that every house has to have. While doing one of our later declutters, we had already gotten rid of a lot of things, but we still felt like we had more stuff than what we needed or wanted, so we began to look more closely at the things that we still had in our home. We had a lot of obligation things that everyone has to have in their house, so of course we do too. One of the things that we let go of that felt almost wrong was our ironing board and our iron. Neither of us have a lot of clothes that have to be ironed in order to look good, so on the off chance that we need the wrinkles taken out of something, we can just use the steamer that we have that also doubles as a cleaner. It works out well because I actually hate ironing, but I don't mind steaming. I'm not proposing that everyone go out and declutter their irons. If you actively use your iron, then it's obviously adding value for you. I'm referring to things that you keep out of obligation that you have to have because everyone has one in their house. Think items you might put on a wedding registry. Number 7, keeping things that came with something you ordered that you didn't know you were getting. One time I ordered a set of hand and dish soap bottles, and when they arrived, they came with a cute little funnel that I didn't even know was included. And suddenly I was having a hard time throwing it away. For me, I have to remember that first of all, I didn't even know it came with this, and I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this. I also have to remember that keeping extra things is just going to contribute to the clutter in my home. It's helpful to just throw it away before I can convince myself that I should keep it. Number 8, keeping things that came with extra attachments that you never use. I once had a small food processor that came with some extra attachments that were not part of the reason why I bought it. These attachments were always in the way and they didn't add any value. It sometimes almost feels wrong to throw away an attachment or something that came with an item because it came kind of as a set. But if it's not an attachment that you use or that you go out of your way to buy, just declutter it. I find I use appliances a lot more when I keep only the attachments that I intend to use. Number 9, buying more than what you need or will use because it's cheaper per unit. I often find myself, especially with bulk stores, weighing the cost per unit. And often I buy something because it's cheaper per unit at Costco. But if I'm in the mood for popcorn, but it's not really something I eat on a regular basis, do I really need 44 packages of popcorn? I really like Costco because I love a good deal. But is it really a good deal if you're going to end up having extra items sitting around your home, cluttering it up, and eventually having to be thrown out because you didn't consume it fast enough? Be aware of how fast you're going to use something up before you buy a larger quantity in the name of saving money. Number 10, ingredients that you don't normally buy for meals you want to try. There is nothing wrong with this, but I find frequently when I'm cleaning out my pantry, I'm having to throw out a lot of ingredients that I bought specifically for something that I never ended up making. I did an entire video on meal planning and I'll link that below. But in this, I talk about some of the things that I do to prevent food waste. If you're going to make something new that you don't already have the ingredients for, try naming a day that you're going to make that new thing. Don't buy the ingredients until you do your grocery shopping for that week. Maybe you'll have changed your mind and you don't want to make this new thing. If you do still want to make it, buying the ingredients so close to when you're making it increases the likelihood that you'll actually make it. Number 11, hobby items for hobbies you want to try. I think hobbies can be an important form of self-care. However, how many times do we start acquiring items for a new hobby that we want to try sometime in the future without having a plan to actually use them? I've done this before, and years later I realized I still hadn't used those items and ended up decluttering them. It is frustrating to have to declutter new things or things that were rarely used. I suggest a few things before you start acquiring new hobby items. First, see if this is something you can try out elsewhere. Is it equipment you can rent first before buying? If not, make sure it's a hobby that you're going to want to actually do and that you actually have time for. If it is, just buy the basics. Make sure you don't go crazy buying everything you could possibly need for this hobby. And if you decide after doing it for a while that it's something that you will actually want to continue, then you can decide to buy more. When I was a senior in college, right before my last semester, I decided I wanted to learn to play tennis. I went and bought a racket and a tube of tennis balls and signed up for a tennis class. It ended up not being a good fit for my busy last semester, so I dropped the class the first week. At this point, I had pretty much lost the urge to learn to play tennis, but I kept my racket anyway because, well, I'd spent money on it. When I finally decluttered this tennis racket, I had kept it for 12 years. I had moved with it 6 different times over 2 different states, and I never learned to play tennis. Number 12, containers that something else came in that would be just perfect for something else. Cute boxes, lunch meat containers, little baskets, etc. I'm all about being frugal and repurposing things, but if you can't put it to good use right now, don't keep it. I would add here, be aware of keeping gift bags for the intent to repurpose them. I used to keep every gift bag I received. When I decluttered my home, I realized that I had had some of these bags for over 7 years and still not used them. I kept about 5 bags that would work well for different occasions, and I let the rest go. I'm still working my way through some of those original 5. Number 13, buying duplicates of things out of convenience. Maybe you have a lint roller in your closet, but you put one in your bathroom too, just in case you need it on your way out the door. But in reality, you could just run back into your closet and use that lint roller that you already have. When we stock our houses for convenience, a lot of times we are setting ourselves up for extra clutter. See which duplicates you can take out to make your house feel less cluttered. The other day I was thinking about buying another bottle of eye drops to have near where I do my makeup. I realized I could literally walk around the corner and get the eye drops out of my nightstand with very little extra effort on my part without having to spend the money to buy new ones and without adding the extra item. This may seem like such a small thing, but if you're consistently doing that, those items add up quickly and turn into a lot of clutter. Maybe it's just a lint roller or just a bottle of eye drops, but if you consistently have that mindset that you need duplicates for convenience, you'll add a lot of extra clutter to your home very quickly. And also having unnecessary duplicates in general is a huge form of clutter. One of my best friends, who is currently on her own decluttering journey, shared with me what she once had duplicates of. She said, at one point I had 3 rolling pins in my house, a marble one, a wood one, and a Tupperware one. I don't anymore, but who can use 3 rolling pins at once? Obviously, there are things that we may need duplicates of if we have to use them at the same time. For example, I have 2 humidifiers because usually when one of my kids is sick, another one of them is sick also. But if you don't need to use these things at the same time, think about getting rid of one. Number 14, getting something new and keeping the old one because it's still good or just in case. I think this is one a lot of people get hung up on. Maybe it's an extra phone cord to an old phone because it's perfectly good, and if anybody comes over that needs that kind of charger, well, you'll be prepared. Or maybe you get a new bathroom scale and instead of decluttering the old one, you move it to your other bathroom. I could go on and on. Next time you are tempted to keep something you've just bought a replacement for, think about why you even needed to replace it in the first place. Maybe it was broken or outdated or inefficient or only worked part of the time. Whatever it is, think about how having the new item is supposed to make your life easier. For me, I often realize that keeping something like that is going to make my life harder. It's going to add clutter around my house, and it's going to add more for me to do. The bottom line is, it is no longer serving its full purpose in my home, which is why I replaced it in the first place. Therefore, I'm going to just let it go. Whenever I have an idea for something I want to change in my home, even if it's something that might make my life easier, but it involves buying something new, I have to ask myself, Do I really want to bring one more thing into my home? I have taken so much out to get it to feel the way that I really want it to. Is this item really worth bringing one more thing in? Asking myself this question has helped me avoid a lot of sneaky clutter. I don't think most of us set out to intentionally see how many things we can bring into our home. I think most of us acquire things with good intentions. I would love to hear in the comments below what sneaky ways you found clutter creeping into your home. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, friends. Have a great day.